Yes, most indubitably the housing market is just gonna crash. This is most indubitably.
Yes, in my professional opinion, I see the housing market just like 2008.
No, the housing market will be just fine. Just fine.
Well, who's right? Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. So you've probably heard at least one of these stories from someone along the way about the state of the 2022 housing market. Since the interest rates are rising and the economy is the way it is, what's the truth of what's going to happen? Now, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, but let's talk about what's going on in our area here in Rapid City. But before we get into that, let's set the stage with a few things. First of all, let's talk about what happened in 2008. Now, back in 2008, we did have a housing market crash. What happened there was that lenders were giving loans to pretty much anybody with a pulse, and they were adjustable rate mortgage loans. So while they had really good low interest rates for the first couple of years, by year 5 you were paying 2-3% higher than your original rate. And suddenly people realized that they weren't making any more money, so they couldn't afford these new loans. So they went to foreclosure. Plus there were things like interest-only loans and just state your income loans that were given, and so people were buying second homes. So there again, as things were moving along and people's incomes didn't rise, they weren't able not only to afford the adjustable rate mortgage on their primary house, but they also weren't able to afford the second home that they just bought. So foreclosures abounded, and we have all this housing crash going on back in 2008. Now, here's why it's different today than it was back in then. So of course, the federal government said, that's not gonna happen again. So they stepped in and they started making rules and regulations about the whole mortgage lending process. All these different rules and regs you've probably been a part of. You can't get a loan now unless it's been fully documented that you can afford this payment. Adjustable rate mortgages kind of went by the wayside. Fixed mortgages were in play, and you had tons and tons of documentation to provide to the lender just to prove that you could afford this home that you're going to purchase. So right now, the majority of the home loans in our area, especially and in the country, are healthy loans. And from my understanding, a large percentage of the forbearance loans that happened during the pandemic have either been taken care of or they've been renegotiated or something's going on. So even those mortgages are moving forward. So we're not going to see the huge massive amount of foreclosures that we saw back in 2008. It's just not going to happen. The next thing to talk about is real estate is local. A great example is said 2008 housing crash. We had, at the time, we were working with Prudential Real Estate, and we had a regional manager come up and visit us during this time frame. At that time, we were still working with buyers and sellers. It was only like 10-15% foreclosures and short sales, and they were aghast. They were astounded. When the rest of the country is working with 50% down on their values, plus totally working with short sales all the way through, they said, you know what? This is kind of like heaven up here. You guys have a normal real estate market going on up here when the rest of the world's in chaos. So you're going to hear lots of things and you have heard lots of things in the past number of months about the state of the housing market. You're going to hear that new mortgage applications are down. You're going to hear that new build starts are down. You're going to see that large builders are now offering incentives like they haven't in years to help people get into their properties. You're going to hear about values going down in other cities. But is that what's happening here in Rapid City? During the 2008 housing crisis, we went down 6%. That entire time, 6. Not 60, 6%. So even if the rest of the country is going crazy, somehow we managed to remain isolated in our little area. So is that going to remain the same during this time? Let's talk about what's going on. So I put together this newsletter for my clients and friends that I've been sending out to them monthly for the past number of years. And for the past year or so, I've been keeping a tally of the number of listings that are active in the area. Back in March 2022, there were 110, and then of course this is always just one snapshot and one day to kind of give everybody kind of an idea. But on that day in March when I put this newsletter together, there were 110 active listings in the entire Black Hills MLS. There were 11 just in Rapid City. When I just did this a couple of days ago, again for June, that number was 293 active listings, residential listings in the Black Hills MLS, and about 90 in town. So we can see right now that the inventory levels are rising. We're having more inventory on the market. So what this tells me is that there are a number of buyers that are looking at the economy, they're looking at the higher interest rates, they're either priced out of the market or they have decided that maybe now is not the right time to buy. So the buyer pool is seemingly less than it has been. So if you are a buyer looking to move into the Rapid City area, Rapid City and Black Hills area, this is good news for you. Maybe things are balancing out a little bit so that you don't have to fight so hard to get into a property. Hopefully it'll be so you won't have to lose out on 10 homes before you finally get that one. So you'll have fewer offers to compete with and thus be able to get into the market a lot easier. Now, that being said, just 3 weeks ago, when I was working with a client, we put an offer on one property that ended up selling for $50,000 over the asking price. The week after that, we did get under contract on another property and paid $15,000 over asking price. There were multiple offers, and I don't know that there were as many multiple offers, but we did secure that property for our clients. And a lot of this really will depend on price point. If you're under the $350,000, $400,000 price point and the home is really nice and immaculate in the right spot, that home is probably going to go for over asking price with multiple offers. If the home is just kind of okay, it might actually sit for a little bit longer. You might have a better chance to get into something. But the nice homes are selling quickly. Take a look at these numbers here. Right now I'm showing you the hot sheet of the back end of our MLS, showing you everything that has gone under contract and has sold in the past couple days. So you can see here everything under the contract. Look at all the single digits. So there's still a number of properties that are being sold single digits. But look, there's a bunch more that are double digits. Oh, and look here, a bunch of properties that have been withdrawn from the market. I haven't seen that in a long time. So these properties didn't get sold either in a timely manner or at the price that they wanted to sell for. So they withdrew from the market. Back a few months ago, there was a majority of single digits and only a few doubles. So we are starting to see time frames extending a little bit, homes being on the market a little bit longer, and things may be balancing out a little bit. If you're a seller, word to you sellers. So here's the situation right now. Used to be, if it was a house, it would sell, right? Now, if your house is just, it's not going to sell quite as quickly for as much money. The property that I mentioned that sold for $50,000 over asking price, that was a $250,000 property on St. Patrick's Street, one of the busiest streets in town. It was on a corner, so it was a little bit nicer. But on St. Patrick's Street, $250,000 sold for at least $300,000, maybe more. I'm not positive. That house was completely redone, brand new floors, new paint, everything was beautiful. It was immaculate. That's how you're going to get more money for your home and on your sale, is by spending that money, spending that time to do things like the painting, refresh the floors, put new carpet in. All of those pieces will help make your home look better. And that's where you're going to get more cash for your sale as things kind of balance out a little bit. No longer can you just throw out any price and get that for your property. If you want the best price for your property, we're getting back to put some money into it, invest back into your house so you can get that money back out. So now the next question is prices. Please tell me the prices are going to come down, right? So here's what's been happening. February, March, April, prices month over month went up every month. So we're seeing that trend continue to rise. But what about April to May? In May, the prices went down. What was my number? $612. $612. But we did see it soften just a little bit in the month of May. So we'll see what happens here as we continue on into June. We'll see what happens next month to see if it goes down, if it softens a little bit. And I have seen a number of price reductions. But are those price reductions because they're realizing that they're priced too high and we no longer are in that price it high and get whatever you want scenario? Maybe those sellers are realizing they finally do need to start lowering the price to meet demand and be market value. On top of the rising interest rates, the general state of the economy with the inflation and who knows what's going to happen has caused a number of buyers that I've talked with personally just recently to decide, maybe now's not the time to buy. Let's just kind of wait and see what happens. So obviously then, when we start dropping back on buyer pool, that's going to start softening those prices. And maybe they'll come down just a little bit, settle back down to where they probably should have been, which hopefully will help us get back to our annual appreciation in the single digits instead of the 20+% that it has been in the past couple years, which we knew is not sustainable. I'm still talking with a number of clients looking to move into the area. Plus, we have a lot of things coming, some businesses and some companies moving into the area that's going to bring in a lot of jobs. Plus, we've got that Ellsworth Air Force Base mission coming in. So we do have a number of people still coming into the area. We are fortunately starting to see more inventory kind of come alive, or at least always be active. Based on these things that I've just talked about, I don't see any really drastic price reductions coming anytime soon, unless we get a lot more listings than we have buyers. So we'll see what happens during the summer and the rest of 22. But please, don't listen to all the national media. Don't listen to all the scare tactics. Yes, our housing market is fine. Probably not going to see that crash unless the economy on its own decides to do what it's going to do. So if you're looking to buy a property and it's the one for you and it's great and you really want to buy it, don't tell me, yeah, the interest rates are coming down, so prices are coming down, so we should offer less. We might still need to offer strong, offer over, depending on what the market's like at that point. All right, I hope that made at least a little bit of sense to everybody. I wish I had that crystal ball that I could actually tell you what's going on, but of course I don't. So thanks again for watching. Have an amazing day. And remember, love where you live.